Ireland and Western Scotland, the rain is now clearing through, with skies clearing and temperatures falling overnight in the west and northwest. Meanwhile, it's a damp evening across Wales, the southwest, central parts of Scotland, and then that rain moves into central parts of the UK through the early hours of Friday. Ahead of it, a lot of cloud, temperatures staying in the double figures in some spots, but a colder start to Friday for much of central and western Scotland, as well as Northern Ireland, having seen those clearer skies. Here's the rain first thing Friday. It's across much of Devon, Dorset, into Somerset, eastern parts of Wales, the Midlands and northern England. Mostly it's light, it's on and off, but there will be some heavier bursts involved. Stark contrast to Northern Ireland, western Scotland, beautiful blue skies first thing. A bit colder compared with the last few mornings because of those clearer skies and lighter winds. 1 or 2 mist patches out there first thing. But for now, at least, an interlude between systems of rain, and we do have showers waiting in the wings to arrive into the northwest of Scotland through the afternoon, eventually reaching parts of western Northern Ireland. But this clear slice of weather will lead to plenty of sunshine for many western parts during Friday, whilst the rain slowly clears the southeast. Then it's the southeast where we see plenty of sunshine as we begin the weekend, and we keep those sunny skies through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast into Saturday afternoon. Elsewhere it turns cloudier, and heavy rain increasingly affects parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England, especially hills of western Scotland and northwest England, North Wales as well. Risk of localised flooding.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dormy, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. This is State of the Nation with me, Alex Armstrong. We've got a bumper of a show coming for you. Of course, I'm standing in for the non-parlil. I think that's right. I've got these big words tonight, haven't I? Tune in. Stay tuned in to see if I can get them all right. I'm standing in for Jacob Rees-Mogg, of course, on the show tonight.
Took him through all of these, all of the numbers and all of the options, and we decided it together as a team because that is what the Prime Minister and I am.
Yes, the government is imploding. The Chancellor has been caught red-handed, throwing the Prime Minister under the bus over tax rises as the effect of her budget starts to bite. Ministers are publicly rebelling and trust in Westminster is at an all-time low. Is the government in control or on the brink of all out a civil war, really? Also tonight...
Sir Keir Starmer, always critical of the House of Lords, and in particular the number of peers being put in by previous Tory governments, has now decided to put 25 of his own cronies in the House of Lords.
Yes, the list of new political peerages has been published, with Sir John Redwood and the boss of Iceland among those soon to be ennobled. But has the House of Lords become a house of cronies? Why has Reform UK been frozen out? Does the upper chamber need to be reformed, restored, or abolished altogether? And youth unemployment in the UK is rising faster than anywhere in the G7, with under 25s now facing the sharpest increase in joblessness of any major economy. Traditional routes into work are shrinking, and Britain has fallen to 27th in the global rankings. And a new EU youth mobility scheme could be on the horizon. Are we just leaving a generation of young people behind, or do they need to get their backs into work? And a new YouGov poll from the Women's Policy Centre shows overwhelming concern about illegal migration and women's safety, with whopping statistics that I'm going to bring to you throughout this show, and shows how much women fear the risks to them from illegal migrants. Has illegal migration become a women's safety issue? Well, State of the Nation starts right now. I'm going to be joined by my phlogistically prognosticating panel, the writer and broadcaster Emma Trimble and historian and author Dr. Tessa Dunlop. You know, when I do this show, I love getting your say-ins, so please send them to me, gbnews.com/your say. But before we get stuck in, let's get your news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening to you. 2 minutes past 8 the time. The Prime Minister has accused the BMA of acting irresponsibly and has urged it to call off next week's 5-day strike when a wave of superflu is expected to peak. The doctors' unions consulting members about a new government offer aimed at ending the long-running dispute. The offer includes extra training posts and a deal covering expenses incurred for exams, but makes no promise of extra pay. They're due to make an announcement on Monday. Sir Keir Starmer says the deal is dependent on the union cancelling the strike.
We put an offer on the table to deal with those issues, but that offer can only go forward if they don't take strike action, particularly in the run-up to Christmas, particularly when we've got a problem with flu. It would be irresponsible of BMA to push through. And I think for many resident doctors, I think, you know, in their heart of hearts, they probably don't want to do this.
It comes as the number of patients hospitalised in England because of flu has risen by more than 50% over the past week. NHS England says more than 2,500 people were admitted to hospital each day last week, and they're warning that number could double by Sunday. The number of norovirus patients in hospital has also risen by 35%. Cases of flu in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales have also increased, but at a slower rate. Doctors say the current wave expected to peak during the planned doctors' strike, due to start next Wednesday. President Zelensky says the US is pushing for Ukraine to withdraw from areas it controls in the east of the country to create a free economic zone. The US was previously pushing for Ukraine to hand over parts of the Donbass to Russia. Mr. Zelensky says the new compromise would not be fair without guarantees that Moscow would not simply take over the zone after Ukraine's withdrawal, and any territorial concessions will have to be put to a referendum. Meanwhile, in Berlin, the NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte warned if Vladimir Putin succeeds in Ukraine, Europe's next.
We are
Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way. I fear that too many are quietly complacent. Too many don't feel the urgency. And too many believe that time is on our side.
The nurse at the centre of a row with a transgender doctor over the shared use of a female changing room is to appeal the findings of her employment tribunal. She was dismissed from her job, this is Sandy Peggy, in Kirkcaldy after objecting to sharing a changing room with Dr Beth Upton, a biological male who identifies as a woman. Ms Peggy won a claim for harassment against NHS Fife, but other allegations of victimisation and discrimination were dismissed. Finally, anyone hoping to attend next year's World Cup final will need to start saving now, with the cheapest tickets costing more than £3,000. The main ballot has opened. Now, it doesn't guarantee tickets, but it means you'll be in the running to apply for them. Group games will be priced according to team popularity, so England fans will pay more than Scotland supporters. The most expensive seat for the final will cost over £6,000. The application window for the ballot remains open until the 13th of January. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with another bulletin at 9 o'clock.
Welcome back to Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, I think the Chancellor's been caught red-handed again. This time on camera, saying the exact opposite of what she told the country 12 months ago. This is what this now clip of Rachel Reeves shows. The Chancellor was grilled by the Treasury Committee over the leaks by all standards. I think damaged market confidence and misled the country at the bare minimum. But what's worse for the Chancellor is that she made a little slip-up. Now, prolific liars, I'm sure, will tell you that it's hard to keep up with what you've been telling people, which is seemingly what I think has happened here. Because last year, Rachel Reeves warned in her budget response that extending the income tax threshold freeze would hurt working people, take money out of their payslips, of course, and breach the manifesto. She told Parliament this in 2024.
I'm keeping every single promise on tax that I made in our manifesto. So there will be no extension of the freeze in income tax and national insurance thresholds beyond the decisions by the previous government.
Oh. Well, fast forward to yesterday afternoon, confronted on camera and being held accountable by members of Parliament, and the freezing of thresholds is suddenly this.
It was very clear that everyone would have to make a contribution. And you saw that in the budget on the 26th of November. We froze for an additional 3 years the tax thresholds, national insurance and income tax, that the previous government had frozen for 7 years. We extended that for a further 3 years. That's not a breach of the manifesto.
Oh, so the same policy she only last year called unfair, harmful and impossible to justify is now totally fine. Really? Let's be clear. A threshold freeze is a tax rise by stealth. More people be dragged into higher taxes because their wages rise with inflation while the thresholds stay still. Reeves knew that last year. She said it out loud. And now that Labour's in government and scrambling for revenue, she claims the opposite. This is why the public despise Westminster doublespeak and trust in politicians is at an all-time low, isn't it? Because it treats the public like they can't remember what was said less than a year ago. Because it also assumes no one will play the clips side by side like I just did. Because it's politics by erasure, isn't it? Not honesty. It's akin to what Stalin used to do, erasing his political enemies. But Rachel Reeves doesn't seem keen to take all the blame on herself.
There is a very close partnership between myself and the Prime Minister, and so we took him through all of these, all of the numbers and all of the options, and we decided it together as a team, because that is what the Prime Minister and I am.
Interesting choice of words. Rachel Reeves mentions how often she and the Prime Minister met during the budget construction, stating how they made all the calls as a team. That doesn't sound like a iron chancellor to me, does it? And you can make of that what you will at home. I think I know what you're all thinking at home too. But Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, usually one of the government's more disciplined operators, well, he snapped, hasn't he? He's openly attacking what he calls Labour's technocratic leadership mindset. I wonder who he's thinking of there, eh? He's blasted the party's inability to tell a coherent story and is warning that substance without communication is political suicide. I might say this warning's a little bit too little too late. And this all follows Downing Street's rattled briefing against the Health Secretary a few weeks ago. It's not a casual disagreement here. This is streeting, like others in the cabinet gearing up for an inevitable leadership contest. And this is the danger for Sir Keir Starmer. When your Chancellor is caught on tape, rewriting her own history, gaslighting the public and misleading the markets, when your Health Secretary is publicly rebuking your entire governing philosophy, when you've promised change but delivered more spin and scandal in 1 year than 14 years of Tory government, when the clips are going viral faster than your comms team can delete them, it doesn't look like a government in control. It looks like a government that's about to implode, with the main casualties looking very likely to be both the Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the Chancellor Rachel Reeves. Well, as ever, what do you think? GBNews.com/your say. And the man who's been wheeled out to defend this all, a good friend of mine, former Labour advisor Paul Richards. Paul, always a pleasure to see you. Look, those two clips side by side, I think, are quite exposing for the Chancellor. Last year, she said that it wasn't a manifesto break to... it would be a manifesto break to raise the threshold, to not raise the threshold in income tax. Now she's saying it wouldn't be.
I think the most significant, and hello, by the way, the most significant thing about the budget, I think, is that it hasn't, the policy has not actually unravelled. The substance of it we can agree with or disagree with. We can agree or disagree on tax levels and all the rest of it. But the actual, the policy itself has not unravelled, as some previous budgets have. What has unravelled is the comms, the spin, the who said what to who, the OBR with the resignation, the leak of the budget onto the internet an hour before she had to speak. You know, all of that processology is still there and we're still talking about it, but the policy substance is solid. So to answer your question, you know, things change between 1 year and the next, and every budget is a reflection of its own time and circumstance and the ones in which the Prime Minister and the Chancellor find themselves. And this budget is no different from that.
All right, but you're avoiding the question, Paul. Did she break the manifesto pledge?
Well, I don't believe so, because...
Paul, I don't know how you can say it.
Because, well, I know what was in the manifesto. The manifesto says very clearly we will not increase the rate of tax, which she hasn't.
But, Paul, it is a raise in tax. With inflation, everyone knows your wages are going to go up, therefore you're breaching the manifesto by
Everyone knows that if you look at the tax rates, the same, VAT didn't go up either. The things that we said we would do in the manifesto are reflected in the budget.
Well, this would make me to ask the question, Paul. Does Labour understand basic economics then? If you think that this is not breaching the manifesto pledge, even by the Chancellor's own words a year ago, and what she said the other day in the Treasury Committee, which are in direct conflict of one another, that would be a break in manifesto pledge, as she clearly said. So what's changed between last year and this year that it doesn't break a manifesto pledge?
It doesn't break a manifesto pledge because the pledge was we will not increase the rate of VAT and
the Chancellor said last year, Paul, that it would be a break of the manifesto
and it haven't. Now, that's not to say the fiscal drag does not mean that some people will be paying more, but that's not an increase in the rate, and that's the crucial point.
No, well, she didn't say that last year.
And the story we never tell is where does that tax go? It doesn't disappear down the back of the sofa. It goes on the health service. It goes on fixing the potholes, more police on the streets. It goes on the things that we actually...
funding more illegal migrant hotels and things like that. Things people just don't want. People don't want more taxes,
We're closing those down, as you well know.
Yeah, we're moving them into barracks
by the time of the next election and speeding up, you know, people getting booted out who shouldn't be too. But the point
let's not get a debate on that, because I've got
there is
panels
another
to talk
side
about
to the coin. My point is tax doesn't disappear. It goes on things that we collectively want as a nation.
All right, well, I'll let the audience decide who they think's right on this one, Paul. I want to move on to Wes Streeting and the rest of the cabinet. This is a pretty big piece he's done, attacking the government, it looks like a thinly veiled attack on Keir Starmer, isn't it? What did he call it? This robotic, monotonous government or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing very badly here.
He didn't say that at all.
What did he say? Hang on, I'll find it. I'll find it.
Technocratic.
Who does that remind you of? Who would you describe as technocratic?
I mean,
in the
there is
Labour
some
government?
strength in that, and he's saying that the Labour Party has to have a story to tell, and he's not wrong in that, is he? I don't think that's a criticism. I think that's quite a helpful observation.
Well, I think it's a very big criticism because the government's been horrendous at communicating with the public, hasn't it? Even this budget proves that. Even Rachel Reeves' two clips prove that.
I think it's fair to say that the communications could be improved, but again, substance is there. You know, he is improving the National Health Service. Waiting times are coming down. He looks like he's he's going to fix this strike with the BMA. So he's a minister doing stuff and getting on with it.
I'm not attacking Wes. I actually think he's one of the more competent ministers.
I think that's fair.
He wouldn't obviously win, unfortunately, a leadership competition. I think he'd like to think he would.
Well, luckily there isn't one of those.
Well,
so
there will be soon,
so
won't
we'll never know.
There will be soon, Paul. There will be soon.
Well,
but do you not think this is a very open attack on the government?
I don't, and I think the danger is that if you try and come up with any kind of view, it's just seen through this prism of a leadership contest that doesn't exist. And
briefings in the press that him and Angela Rayner might be getting together.
Well, that was a load of nonsense, wasn't it?
Was it?
Absolutely.
Was he not just putting the feelers out there?
The other thing in the Telegraph story, by the way, was that Starmer and Rachel Reeves met several times leading up to the budget, and that somehow is an attack on Starmer. I'm delighted that our Chancellor and our Prime Minister actually talk to each other. We've had lots of examples in history where they won't even be in the same room. So it's good that they talk to each other.
Yeah, but many will be worried that the Prime Minister knew about this abysmal budget, which by all accounts has unfortunately misled many people at home, especially the markets, will have felt misled. Even cabinet ministers were briefing that this was misleading.
Hang on.
So he would have known about that, wouldn't he?
As she was speaking, Rachel Reeves, and as the budget was unfolding, the markets were stable.
Yes, but beforehand they weren't.
The markets reacted extremely well to the policy. Once they saw the policy and what it meant for the economy and for their businesses, their markets were stable.
Yes,
now, the destabilisation was before that,
yes,
which is what Rachel was saying in that Select Committee performance.
Because of her prior statements.
Because of all the nonsense around
like
leaks.
the pre-budget weird speech she gave, which did rattle the markets.
Yeah, and that's why I think the lesson learned is you don't start leaking all this stuff all over the place like an incontinent puppy before a budget. And I'd like to go back to Purdah, where they just stay stum.
Yeah, so would I.
And we find out on the day what's in the budget, not 3 weeks in advance. So, that's a lesson learned, isn't it? But again, processology. That's not the substance, that's the process.
All right, well, Paul Richards, sturdy defence of the Labour government there. Let me know what you think at home, gbnews.com/your say. But coming up in a moment.
So Sir Keir Starmer, always critical of the House of Lords, and in particular the number of peers being put in by previous Tory governments, has now decided to put 25 of his own cronies in the House of Lords.
The list of new political peerages has been published, but has the House of Lords become a house of cronies? Why has Reform UK been frozen out? Does the upper chamber need to be reformed or abolished altogether? I'll also bring you that astonishing poll on illegal migration from a woman's perspective. All that coming up very shortly.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm not so concerned about the very highly paid public officials like Sadiq Khan, but even he is paying nearly £20,000 a year into his own pension. So it's quite right that he should get the appropriate pension on his retirement. But who I'm more concerned about are the 16,000 local councillors up and down the country. They work an average of 22 hours a week. Some of them, about 1 in 8, work more than 35 hours a week serving their local communities. They don't get paid a wage, but they do get an allowance. And it's only about £7,000 a year on average. But in some local authorities, they only get an allowance of £3,000 a year. Now that seems very small reward for they're in charge of the hundreds of millions of pounds of local budgets to provide council services, from libraries to parks to elderly care homes. I think it's fair they get a decent pension.
Being a councillor isn't a full-time job. As you said, it's 22 hours a week. It's not a full-time job. Most people work 40 hours a week, and they won't get a pension, an inflation-busting, gold-plated pension. It just feels very, very unfair when a time when we're being asked all working people to contribute more.
Some councillors do not do a very good job, but those councillors, it's up to the local voters to vote them out. But I want to say that I know quite a few local councillors in different parts of the country, and all the ones I know, they work very, very hard, and they do a full-time job, paid job. They do a job, you know, which gets them employment, but they do their council work on top of that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to State of the Nation. Just to get some of your views here, Roy says, can someone tell Paul's gone now, but I will tell him when I see him on Saturday, that collectively we don't want our taxpayers' money to go spending billions on Mauritius for Chagos, billions for Nut Zero, billions for housing illegal migrants. Well, this is what I was arguing with Paul about, is that actually, even if he wants to say the policy got through, I don't think actually that it landed very well with the public. Let's have a look here. Rod says, Paul, quite blatantly, I think you're referring to the Chancellor, did break the manifesto via the back door. It's very hard to deny it when you see those two clips back to back, isn't it? And Roy has said, how can he honestly support this government with a straight face? Well, look, some people do love Labour. I mean, they're still in the polls. They're not crashed down to nothing, so people do support them. There we go. All right, well, let's move on, because Number 10 has published its list of new political peerages today. 25 for the governing party Labour, 5 for the Liberal Democrats, 3 for the Tories, but none for Reform UK. The House of Lords has been subject to constitutional debate since the days of Lloyd George, with the current government removing the remaining 92 hereditary peers. Nigel Farage had this to say earlier on.
Keir Starmer, always critical of the House of Lords, and in particular the number of peers being put in by previous Tory governments, has now decided to put 25 of his own cronies in the House of Lords, and add to that a handful of Lib Dems and quite a few Tories as well. And you now realise that every party in British politics has representation in the House of Lords, apart from one, and that's the one that has led the opinion polls for the last 150 polls in the row. Do you know what the name is? I'll tell you. It's called Reform UK.
Well, after all that, are political peerages a good idea? Was William Hague, the former Conservative leader, right when in 1999 he said the upper chamber would become a house of cronies? Is it time to reform the House of Lords, restore it to its former hereditary glory, perhaps, or just abolish it altogether? And before we get stuck in, just a reminder, friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll for free by scanning the QR code now. And today we're asking this: should the House of Lords be abolished? Yes or no? Let us know what you think, and we'll bring you the end of that result very shortly. But I'm joined now by my panel, writer and broadcaster Emma Trimble, and the historian and author Dr. Tessa Dunlop. Emma, I'll start with you. I'm very torn on this issue. I haven't landed on either side. I think I'm one of those people that's either it's got to go back completely to how it used to be, or could be completely abolished entirely. Where do you sit on this?
I share your ambivalence, because I think where we are now is the ultimate consequence of the previous reforms of the House of Lords. I personally would like for it to have never been reformed and for it still to have been a hereditary peerage. I know that makes me sound like a bit of a dinosaur, but I think that the issue is that it can only go in one direction from here. I mean, it's almost impossible to justify somehow going back to hereditary peerage. And the problem is that the way that it works now is patently ridiculous. I mean, it's such political games for this government, the Labour government, to be getting rid of hereditary peers, getting rid of as many peers, or actually slightly less peers than they have just put into the House of Lords in the time that they have been in government, and that they have changed this retirement age now, so that when peers reach the age of 80, and there are many, many excellent peers who are over the age of 80, that they're then forced to retire. Meanwhile, it is the biggest chamber of its kind outside of China. I mean, it's madness.
That's right. And the average age of a peer, I think, is 70. Tessa, should we get rid of it?
It costs us an absolute fortune. Do you know what they get as their sort of per diems, their perks per day if they sit and they choose to claim it? £371 just for sleeping on a bench. And
some people have to do that, sadly, with no money.
So the average peer sits for 65 days in a year, and there are over 800. So basic sums, that's 20 million quid on perks for old people. I say no to the House of Lords in its current state. I'm disappointed with the speed at which Starmer's moving. He made all the right noises in opposition, saying this is indefensible, it's undemocratic. He was quite right. If you look at America or France, they all have these neat, trim, second elective houses that kind of do a staged or every 2 years, a third of them are up for election, so you don't suddenly get this electoral fatigue. I don't understand why we can't go hell for leather, root and branch. We need to deal with the bloated, ever-increasing wealth of the royal family, and we need to de-size and de-crony the House
just
of Lords.
on the cost, because the French Senate costs a lot more. I mean, ours costs around 117 million. The French Senate costs 340 million euros. The Italian Senate costs 540 million. So actually, it is quite cheap compared to some of our EU counterparts. I don't know whether that's a good case for it. Why hereditary peers? Why are they better?
So I think, and Tessa kind of touched on this, that this touches on all sorts of constitutional issues. I think that there is a good argument, and it seems like a very antiquated argument now, for the hereditary principle. In fact, the fact that we have a monarchy is totally entangled with the legitimacy of the hereditary principle. It's also connected to the fact that we have an established church. And these are all things that I think it's very important for us to keep the traditional balance of our constitutional ecosystem intact. The problem is that Tony Blair made constitutional reforms that introduced these sort of invasive species into that ecosystem, and now it's starting to corrode to the point now where it's becoming very difficult to actually justify its existence.
Or you could flip that on its head and say that the anomaly is now the monarchy, because there are so few hereditary peers, and if the government's House of Lords bill goes through to completion, that will abolish the remaining 92 peers, of which is Clement Attlee's grandson, I believe, and also the Duke of Wellington still has a descendant in the current House of Lords. They will go. So you then have the monarchy that's the exception. But I think my issue is with the Labour Party at the moment. They promised they would take the power out of Westminster and give it more to the people. And at the moment, both our head of state, the monarchy, and our House of Lords, we don't have a say.
Yeah.
And that feels profoundly undemocratic.
I've got a feeling Clement Attlee's grandson might be a Tory peer. I don't know whether he's hereditary or not. But
he's
regardless,
hereditary. He's certainly hereditary.
OK. Well, look, this is the difficulty.
Most hereditary peers are Tory, just for the record.
Well, I think that's probably one of the reasons why Keir Starmer wants to get rid of them,
and also the ones over the age of 80.
Yeah, well, also, most British people will argue that actually we don't need more politicians. We actually need less politicians. There is a lot of lords. Surely there could be a compromise here without uprooting the entire political system and starting again.
Well, I think that there's obviously an issue in the rules, in the way that these appointments happen. The fact that reform are being denied any peers is obscene, frankly. And actually, reform need to have those peers, because if they do become the next government, they're going to need to have. It's only right that they, and also because it allows them to gain experience, before they are potentially in government.
But actually, it was actually profoundly politically stupid of Keir Starmer not to throw Farage a bone, because what he can do is he can threaten to torch the whole Lords scenario by flooding it with reform peers, I don't think he will, but if he won the next general election.
However, so just very quickly, what I was going to say is that whatever rules we might concoct to try and deal with this situation, I think doing things like introducing a retirement age and getting rid of hereditary peers is the opposite of what they need to be doing.
So what would you do?
Could we not have a system where you serve a period of time in the Lords? Maybe it's 10 years, 15 years. But actually, after that, then every general election or so, there's some calculations.
That's what they have in the Senate. That's what they have in the French second chamber. Why even 15 years? I mean, at the moment,
I'm just throwing numbers out here, by the way.
For 5. So I say 6.
Actually, just quickly as well, to come back to Tessa's point about how much it costs, I actually think if a peer is doing their job well and properly, which many are, £300 a day is really not that much.
371.
It is one of the cheap ones. I gave some comparisons earlier on, but I just, it's so difficult. I don't think the British public want more politicians. I think that's the difficulty. We do need smart people in the House of Lords, and one of the great things it does bring is that business experience. Some of those great peerages that are given up for people with expertise, professors, scientists, things that are lacking in
politics.
politics.
But in a moment, it's slightly above politics.
Except at the moment, what we've seen is first Boris Johnson stuffing. Do you remember his controversial resignation list? And there was accusation of lackeys in its Stark. And now we've got Keir Starmer doing the same for balance. So actually, that undercuts the credibility of the Lords.
I feel like it's only right to do a shout out to John Redwood, who's very often on this show.
Yeah, he's brilliant,
he's on the Conservative.
Well, now he's getting paid more than the GB News fee, so I expect we'll never see him again in the studio.
Well, listen, I know a lot of very good Lords, and they are brilliant at what they do, and they do care very, very deeply. But I do see that there is a swelling here of the British public do want change in this area. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, though, and I think Tessa might be right. I think Keir Starmer's just given Nigel Farage a hand grenade. Thank you, panel. Anyway, coming up in just a moment, a metaphorical hand grenade. Youth unemployment in the UK is rising faster than anywhere in the G7. Traditional routes into work are shrinking, and a new EU youth mobility scheme could be on the horizon. Are we leaving a generation behind, or do young people just need to get on with it? See you shortly.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Are you heading away this weekend? Well, it's turning unsettled through the Canary Islands, but there is plenty of sunshine to come for the Mediterranean. But a spell of wet weather through Friday will push through Tenerife as well as Madeira and through Lisbon as well as towards Barcelona. Plenty of cloud and outbreaks of showers for Nice. But as we look further east, high pressure dominates, and that will bring plenty of sunny and dry weather to parts of Greece in particular. So temperatures here will start to climb towards the high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We do have an area of rain moving east, and it's only slowly going to make its way across the country overnight into the start of tomorrow. But having seen a damp day on Thursday in Northern Ireland and Western Scotland, the rain is now clearing through, with skies clearing and temperatures falling overnight in the west and northwest. Meanwhile, it's a damp evening across Wales, the southwest, central parts of Scotland, and then that rain moves into central parts of the UK through the early hours of Friday. Ahead of it, a lot of cloud, temperatures staying in the double figures in some spots, but a colder start to Friday for much of central and western Scotland as well as Northern Ireland, having seen those clearer skies. Here's the rain first thing Friday. It's across much of Devon, Dorset, into Somerset, eastern parts of Wales, the Midlands and northern England. Mostly it's light, it's on and off, but there will be some heavier bursts involved. A stark contrast to Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, beautiful blue skies first thing. A bit colder compared with the last few mornings because of those clearer skies and lighter winds. 1 or 2 mist patches out there first thing. But for now at least, an interlude between systems of rain, and we do have showers waiting in the wings to arrive into the northwest of Scotland through the afternoon, eventually reaching parts of western Northern Ireland. But this clear slice of weather will lead to plenty of sunshine for many western parts during Friday, whilst the rain slowly clears the southeast. Then it's the southeast where we see plenty of sunshine as we begin the weekend, and we keep those sunny skies through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast into Saturday afternoon. Elsewhere it turns cloudier, and heavy rain increasingly affects parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England, especially hills of Western Scotland and Northwest England, North Wales as well. Risk of localised flooding.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, youth unemployment in the United Kingdom is rising faster than anywhere else in the G7. In just 3 years, the under-25 joblessness rate has risen from under 11% to more than 15%. Traditional pathways into work are shrinking, while hiring costs and a growing health crisis are pushing more young people out of the workforce. And with the government considering an EU youth mobility scheme, possibly letting up to 40,000 EU nationals, our younger generation might be at risk of being squeezed out of their job prospects even further. So is an entire generation being left behind, or do young people just need to get on their bikes? Well, I'm now very happy to be joined by Director of Policy in Practice, Devon Galani, and of course my panel, Emma Trimble and Tessa Dunlop. Devon, I'll start with you. Don't laugh. I'm just trying to get my words out, all right? Devon, I'll start with you. Look, thanks for coming in. My big concern here is that we're about to rejoin this youth mobility scheme. Right. Now, when I looked at the state of the last youth mobility scheme, I think the statistics are quite stark here. The difference between British people going to study in the EU versus them come to study here is something like 1,000% higher of EU students coming to Britain, massively disproportionate, which means actually, if young people are going after jobs, they're going to be fighting potentially those young people for a job as well, even in the short-term market, like, or perhaps working for Tesco or something like that. That would then squeeze this joblessness rate even higher, surely, amongst young people.
I mean, maybe. I mean, having people come here is actually a good sign for the country. So people wanting to come to this country is actually a good sign. It shows that there is an economy, there are jobs for people. I think on the competition side, when I looked at this in some depth back in, it was a while ago, 10 years ago now, for the Centre for Social Justice, what I found was if you're an employer, you much preferred hiring someone local. Now, that doesn't mean... that just means someone who lives nearby, but, that would always be your preference. But when they went for people who weren't... It was because they couldn't find the skills, the people that they were looking for locally. So businesses always had a preference for local people. It's about making sure young people have the skills that employers are looking for and the willingness and drive to take some of the jobs that are out there, because some, for rightly or wrongly, don't appeal to young people here.
Sure. I mean, but also, just another bit on the statistics here. I mean, Spain, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Luxembourg, Greece, Italy all have, some of them, 10% higher youth unemployment rates. Surely this is another bad sign for young people in this country who are just trying to perhaps get a job and keep their heads above water, because all those young people from Spain, Sweden, Finland might come to the United Kingdom on some sort of mobility.
So I think you definitely need more jobs in the UK. So kind of the more jobs there are, that obviously makes it more attractive for other people to come here because there are jobs here, but also it means there are more jobs for people in the UK to take. So that is probably the first thing I would say. And it can be very bleak to say, oh no, it's a tight jobs market, there's more people coming here. But actually, if you're a young person looking for work, I think the first thing I'd say is, open your mind to taking any job, be willing to travel a little bit further. Those are any job is a better place to start from, to then get a better job, to then get into a career. So I think there's a lot of positive advice and energy you can give to young people, rather than focusing on it definitely is a difficult job market, but actually that doesn't help people get jobs. So what you need to do is tell people that there are really good, open your mind to other job opportunities. Care, there's a lot of skill shortage sectors. Care is one. And actually that's a good starting point. It shows your willingness to work. Not everyone wants to do that, though.
No, true. Emma, is it the case that actually young people are just shunning work? Is that why it's rising? Or is it because of growth? Is it because growth in Britain is down? I've got lots of younger brothers. They are struggling massively, all got good degrees, all come out very capable of working, all want to work, and are struggling to find actual jobs.
Yeah, I think there are lots of different factors at play. I think some of it maybe is that, people want to do a certain thing and they don't want to take a job in an area that maybe is not what they had in mind, or perhaps wasn't ideal. Maybe there is a kind of slightly work-shy culture amongst some people, sure. But I think actually the real problem here is the environment that not just this government, successive governments have created for business. Businesses are not hiring people. Businesses can't afford to hire more people because national insurance contributions have been raised. If employers aren't hiring, then there are just simply not going to be the jobs on the market for those young people. And if they have an entrepreneurial spirit, if they think, well, you know, maybe the job that I want doesn't exist, but I could go out and I could do something, I could create something, and I want to make something of my life, the government is so hostile to business and is so hostile even to savers that if you're a young person and you're looking at the economy as it is, it's not completely unreasonable for you to think, well, you know, why would I put in the effort if the government is going to take all of my money and raid my savings?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very uninspiring climate.
Tessa, the cynic in me says that this part of the desire to get back into this youth mobility scheme is because a lot of the young British people will then become not unemployed in Britain, they'll become unemployed somewhere else. And that would take them off the statistics and make the government look like they're making progress on growth.
I think you have a very negative view about this youth unemployment scheme. I mean, it is a bit of to and froing between young people. I mean, in my day it was called Eurorail with some fruit picking, and off I went, and I rocked up in Romania, and I've had a great life and did a PhD in the country subsequently and wrote a book there. I mean, I
were you unemployed during that time?
No, but I might have been.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 18 rolling around in Scotland,
Yeah.
and I was actually able to volunteer in an orphanage there because I was able to do things I couldn't do in this country. The point is that we are able to expand our minds, use different languages, learn, adapt, grow in other spaces. And I think we should encourage that for Europe's young, and we're European as well, but also for our young, as a vice versa thing. And there's many countries that we can go to, so don't feel worried that they're going to steal all our jobs and nothing goes the other way. But just very quickly, I think that there is a really, I think, an undiagnosed problem at the moment. It's the NEEPs, the nearly 1 million people who are not in training or education. Alan Milburn is currently researching into this, and it's the classic thing with Keir Starmer's government. The intention is there, the delivery is too slow. They're not delivering till next summer. I'm like, how long does it take to work out what these kids, because they're more or less kids there, but, you know, they were really badly impacted by COVID. Actually, they have hit a dire job market that you didn't have to face even 10 years ago. What they're facing now is far, far tougher. And I think we need to work out the toxic combination of things that's resulted in a perfect storm of underemployment. Because actually, if you leave young people not engaged in the system in any way, that is banking problems for the future.
Devon, brief final word from you on this topic.
Well, they're both brilliant points. What I'd say is you are better off in work if you're a young person listening to this. And I think the sense of like, kind of the sense of we'll be stuck on, but, you know, it's not worth it. It absolutely is worth it. You're definitely better off financially in the short term, but also in the long term, it gets you a foot on the ladder. So I think that's probably the first point I'd make. Completely second that point. It's about investing in young people. If that means some people come here, learn about England, and some people go to Europe and learn about Europe, that is actually, you're actually adding to the potential of both of all sets of countries.
Yeah.
So I think it's really about making sure you put the right level of investment in young people now. And there's a lot I think we did wrong over the last sort of 15, 20 years where, you know, we took away some of those opportunities for young people, and it'd be good to give them back.
Yeah, I certainly want more young people to work. I think it's set them up very well in the future.
Absolutely.
But here's what a Treasury spokesman said. The budget doubled down on our work to drive growth, protection billions of pounds in new capital spending, making it easier for startups to scale and invest in the UK, and bearing down on inflation, helping to support the bank to cut interest rates even further and give businesses the confidence to invest. Right, thank you, Devon Galani and my panel. Well, coming up, a new YouGov poll from the Women's Policy Centre shows overwhelming concern about illegal migration. I'm going to give you the stark numbers. They are really phenomenal on the show next. Stay with GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. A new YouGov poll commissioned by the Women's Policy Centre reveals overwhelming public concern about illegal migration and its impact on women's safety. According to this poll, 93% of people support deporting illegal migrants convicted of rape or other violent crimes, and 67% believe illegal migration is putting women at greater risk. The Centre's chairman, Paola Diana, says Britain wants decisive action to protect women and ensure violent offenders cannot find a safe haven in the United Kingdom. So I'm asking, is illegal migration now a women's safety issue, and has it been all along? Well, to talk about this, I've got my all-female panel with me, Emma Trimble and Dr. Tessa Dunlop. Dr. Tessa Dunlop, I'll start with you. And I'll give some more data on this. On the deportation of unauthorised migrants guilty of sexual assault or violent crimes, Conservatives, 99% support that. 92% for Labour supporters. Liberal Democrats, it's 93%. Reform UK supporters, it's 99%. And even Greens, it's 87% support. Yeah, it's quite overwhelming.
But why are you surprised?
Well, I think there's always been this discussion as to whether or not we should send people back to countries where they feel like the human rights lawyers will say they're going to be persecuted for their crimes.
But it's so interesting because that's such a tiny number are able to either action on Article 8 or Article 3 of the ECHR, which is why, by the way, 46 countries got together in Strasbourg to try and thrash this out and work out a way forward on a multilateral European platform as opposed to ripping up the rule book, which is what Reform and the Conservative parties want to do. And once again, Britain all on its little lonely Todd. Just to stress that in the last year, 5,200 foreign national criminals have been deported, which is up by 14%. So this is already happening. But the reason why so many people are sort of triggering 100% of women are terrified is partly because, and I'm going to pin the blame on channels like this and Nigel Farage, peddle statistics that are not entirely accurate. The famous one last year was Farage coming out saying that an Afghan man was 22 times more likely to sexually or otherwise assault you than an indigenous Brit, and it simply was unfounded on statistics that weren't properly researched and weren't updated.
There is a disproportion when you do look at the crime statistics, national crime statistics, of men from foreign countries, particularly of South Asian heritage and others, that are more likely to commit specific crimes. Sexual assault crimes are quite high amongst those.
Just to be clear,
disproportionately
he took that statistic from the annual population survey before the Taliban had finally, you know, run asunder Biden's last remaining soldiers, and we had the mass exodus out of Afghans. So the sample they were operating from made it look, it was so small, they said there was only 13,000 Afghans in Britain. That's clearly not true.
Tessa, do you not think, and I'll come to you in the second, Emma, so I'm not leaving you out, I'm thinking of you there, just to push back a little bit, because we see headline after headline of men who've come over here on small boats who have committed heinous crimes. And that's not to say, by the way, that British people are not committing these crimes. It's the case that British people don't think they should be here in the first place. And therefore, people say,
it's the double
care. Yeah.
It's the double whammy.
I obviously want to solve the problem of British people doing it, but why should we have to put up with these men as well? That's the argument.
So the issue is that they're illegal and that we don't have a control over those who are coming into our country. But we have had illegal migration for a very long time. It used to be invisible coming in on trucks, and now it's very visible on boats. But even another statistic I'll give you, and then I permit you on your own show to go to Emma. 40% apparently of sexual crimes in London were committed by those born overseas. Again, a statistic that couldn't be stacked up when data analysis looked at it. So we are being peddled a bit of misinformation to suit a political agenda. I am all for controlling the borders more effectively, but I'm not all for labelling foreign nationals as more likely to rape me. That's
OK, fair enough. Look, I don't have the statistics in front of me, so I won't push back because I don't know. But Emma, over to you. Maybe you do.
Well, I mean, you say it's become more visible now. People are still coming over on the backs of lorries and finding other ways to enter the country illegally. But the number of illegal migrants coming here has risen exponentially over the last 10 years. I mean, it's just astonishing, and we don't know who these people are. I think the reason why women are afraid and are concerned about this is not because channels like this are talking about it, discussing it, reporting it. It's because they have eyes, because they have experiences, because if they live in an area where these problems, you know, are much more heightened in some areas than in others, that is their daily life, that's their experience. They're being harassed, they're being leered at, and they're afraid for their children to go to school, they're afraid to go out on their own, and men are also afraid for the women that they know and love and care about. So I don't think that this is a case, that this is an agenda that is being peddled. The statistics suggest that this is something across the board. We agree on this, so why are we still
But what's interesting is, actually, I was staggered to hear a solicitor from Leeds, which is one of the main legal firms that represents the asylum seekers and foreign nationals trying to stay in Britain when they're being deported. And she said that 30 of these foreign national criminals cited the Article 8 right to a family and private life. I thought, only 30? If you read the press, the number of instances that you hear about, X said, even though he raped somebody, he had to stay in the country to look after his, moggy cat or something. The point is there's a disproportionate reporting of certain individuals.
We've got to leave it there, unfortunately. This is such a good debate. I'm sorry, we'll have to do it again. But I think all I'd say, Tessa, is that actually British people are outraged at the fact this happens at all. And that actually these people shouldn't be welcomed here. They haven't been welcomed to the country, therefore it's not.
Sexual violence is from anybody.
We've got to go. Patrick Christie's is up next. Patrick, what's on your show, mate?
Yes, well, good evening. We can reveal that 2 Afghan rapists are living a life of luxury behind bars. They're in a special prison. They get everything from DVD players to laptops to an ensuite room. I mean, it's just absolutely disgraceful. So we're going to be talking about that. Also, the far left in denial over the grooming gang issue. And as well, we speak to a woman who went undercover at a pride rally that she says was sexualising kids. All that and more.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We do have an area of rain moving east and it's only slowly going to make its way across the country overnight into the start of tomorrow. But having seen a damp day on Thursday in Northern Ireland and Western Scotland, the rain is now clearing through, with skies clearing and temperatures falling overnight in the west and northwest. Meanwhile, it's a damp evening across Wales, the southwest, central parts of Scotland, and then that rain moves into central parts of the UK through the early hours of Friday. Ahead of it, a lot of cloud, temperatures staying in the double figures in some spots, but a colder start to Friday for much of central and western Scotland as well as Northern Ireland, having seen those clearer skies. Here's the rain first thing Friday. It's across much of Devon, Dorset, into Somerset, eastern parts of Wales, the Midlands and northern England. Mostly it's light, it's on and off, but there will be some heavier bursts involved. A stark contrast to Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, beautiful blue skies first thing. A bit colder compared with the last few mornings because of those clearer skies and lighter winds. 1 or 2 mist patches out there first thing. But for now, at least, an interlude between systems of rain, and we do have showers waiting in the wings to arrive into the northwest of Scotland through the afternoon, eventually reaching parts of western Northern Ireland. But this clear slice of weather will lead to plenty of sunshine.